All right, everybody. So I was doing the art job yesterday. I wanted to listen to something. I saw McDougall had a new whatever they call these things, and I thought it was pretty interesting. So I wanted to kind of share my thoughts on it, and I have another video that I'm going to interlude in here. So let's see how this goes.
Hello, and welcome to McDougall's Medicine with Dr. John and Mary McDougall. I'm their daughter and your host, Heather McDougall. Thank you for being with us tonight.
This has a lot to do with, this has everything to do with Ancel Keys and the Minnesota study starvation project. I wanted to show this because everybody's like, oh, this doesn't exist. And now here McDougall is talking about it.
Just like every night, Sundays at 5 p.m., we're going to get to general questions. I have dozens here in front of me, and I know many more are going to come in, and I will do my best to answer as many as I can. Hi, Mom and Dad, Dr. McDougall and Mary. How are you? Nice to see you.
We're good.
We've been working hard this week, getting ready for you guys. Yeah. And let's see. I don't know.
What do you want to talk to them about today?
You know, I've got something to talk to them about that I've been busy doing this week. You know that I have been. You know, I've been working on this talk about Ozempic and the some
people commented that they don't think Heather looks healthy. I don't know what you're talking about. Looks fine to me.
Make yourself sick injections for diabetes that so many people are wanting to take to lose weight because they can't.
But you got to starve yourself, man.
They can't because, you know, I think, and where I have to start off this whole presentation, which Heather, we've got to put this together. You know, you've got to put me on the line, give me a date, put some pressure on me so I can finish this talk up. But where we're going to start out is we're going to start out with the hunger drive, which I don't think very many people understand.
And Heather,
it's crazy to me how many people in my DMs that I get talking about, well, you just need to starve yourself and, you know, do 3 or 4 hours of cardio a day and hang upside down and do a traction and, you know, you'll be fine. Meanwhile, I've lost and kept off 145 pounds. Yeah, I wouldn't say struggling with this last. I don't even know how much weight. I really don't. But I've run into my liver again. So
if you put it off too long, he'll find a way to make it even longer because he keeps doing more and more research and he finds new things.
But I also think that it has something to do with what starch you eat and how you digest it. You know, I've had people come on here and talk about how they don't digest rice and other things very well. So I'm doing the experiment myself. And I have to say, my mood is not as good as it was the last 2 weeks at all. And neither is my digestion. And I'm going to talk about that more. I might actually end this experiment in a couple days here.
Things all the time.
Yeah, well, I'm going to get it
like
done.
This one you have to talk about tonight.
Well, I've got to make this new and important for people. And, you know, I don't think that they're going to really get it unless they start coming to grips with themselves.
That's the biggest obstacle is you.
And the fact that they got this extremely powerful drive that keeps them alive. They got 3 of them that keep them alive. They got the drive for oxygen, not air, folks, but oxygen. Not just a drive for liquid to satisfy the thirst. It's only water that does that.
And Sprite.
They've got this hunger drive, which is satisfied by carbohydrate, by sugar, by potatoes and rice and corn. And people just don't realize that. And they're trying to get satisfied by eating protein or eating lots of food.
I did it 10 years, always hungry, always eating. It's a miserable life. I don't know why people do it for so long.
Food. You know, I would like our listeners, you know, we get 6, 7, 8,000 people listen to this little hour presentation. I want you to take some time this week and find out about your hunger drive. I'd like you to stop eating.
He's talking about fasting now.
This is an extremely important part of your education so you can realize why dieting doesn't work. It's just too painful. And why dieters and medical doctors and et cetera go to such extremes to deal with this powerful drive, the hunger drive. I mean, they put you on a completely bizarre, make yourself sick diet, which are the keto diets. You go into ketosis, you lose your appetite. Now we're given shots of diabetic medications, which result in an average weight loss of like 34 pounds.
Okay. All right. So somebody asked me about this in the live that I did on Friday. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to do another live tomorrow. That was a lot of fun. Probably about 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, I'm going to do that. But somebody asked me about, there's two of them out there that he's talking about. One's Wegovy. And what it does is expensive as hell too. It's like $1,000 a week or something like that. It's a starvation thing. You inject yourself with these pen things like an EpiPen, and it makes it so you don't eat. Like what? And it's so expensive too.
Takes you 68 weeks.
Anyway, the endocrinologist actually gave me one of these things. I was kind of like, because she came out to me. She's like, "Oh, I've got this thing. It's so amazing, so amazing." Because she was talking about that I still had a fatty liver, and she's like, "It's so amazing. It's going to help your fatty liver." And she comes in and she doesn't even explain what the hell it is. She just gives it to me, right? Sample for a month. And I come home and I look into it and it has nothing. I thought it was going to like help the liver rejuvenate or whatever. No, it's a starvation thing. I'm like, I threw it in the trash. I should have sold it, but I didn't really say that.
Weeks to lose it. And then you hit a plateau. Yeah. 68 weeks. How long is that, Mary?
That reminds me. Yesterday I was doing DoorDash. I've told a couple people about this because I'm in shock by this. So one of the places I go is Target, and Target doesn't put the order together. You do. So I went and shopped for this person, right? 5 items. One was keto Cheez-Its. One was keto granola it was still granola. Somehow it's keto. Keto bars. Something else keto, and berries. It came to $32. This stuff together, all combined, didn't even weigh 2 pounds. $32 plus a tip, plus whatever it is. This probably cost this person $60 for less than 2 pounds of keto nonsense. I mean, these people, I feel bad. I was actually hoping to see this person, but it was like a haunted house I dropped this off. It was pretty freaky. The lights were off. I'm like, I couldn't even take a picture of it when I was on the doorstep because it was so dark.
2 weeks is a year, so more than a year.
Yeah.
Okay, so you lose pretty well for a while, and then your body adapts to being sick, and then you don't lose any more weight. It's a 38-pound weight loss on average that you get by taking these shots, which could be twice a day, could be once a week. Cost over $1,000.
It was once a week for Wegovy. I don't know if that's how it always is, but yeah.
A month, $1,000 a month. And if you add up 68 weeks, I think that comes out to $17,000 for 38 pounds of weight loss. And then you hit a plateau because you finally get to the point where, your body says, hey, you got to eat, even though you're sick by being shot up with Gila monster venom. Look it up. It's Gila monster venom. Anyway, Mary, I just wanted to. We got to take it and make a real clear understanding because most of these people haven't done it. They haven't been hungry.
Well, how long do you want them to be hungry for?
Just a weekend.
A weekend.
Do you remember when we did that?
I do.
Come on, tell us a little bit about it. From your point of view, what was that experience that we went
this
on?
was like 30 years ago.
Well, Heather was a little baby, yeah.
No, she
young
was,
girl.
Yeah, she was probably 6
So
or 7.
40 years ago.
Yeah.
40 years ago. Do you remember that, Heather, when we did that?
I do very, very clearly. You wouldn't let us participate at all because we were too little, but I remember.
Yeah. And so we belonged to this small church in Honolulu, and at the time.
That's got to be awesome. I don't know why the hell they left Hawaii, man. Oh, that's right, because of his foundation.
40 years ago, they were having all this.
Not the starvation, but just why.
Hunger in Africa. And people were actually talking about the starving people in Africa and things like this. So we decided that as a church, oh no, you challenged.
I was
them.
the instigator.
Yeah,
you know
were
me.
always the instigator. What? Well, then you have to tell them your story.
Well, yeah, it was the starving. I said, this is a wimpy way to show sympathy for starving
I swear this is getting somewhere. This is getting somewhere. I swear.
people in Africa. Good grief.
I'm not going to watch this whole thing either. It's we're going to get somewhere. I think.
We'll
see.
you're supposed to be holier than thou, you in this church. So I probably didn't tell him that.
No, you did.
So I said, let's show some real empathy for these starving people all around the world. But this was a focus on African people and African children, of course. And so I said, look, why don't we go without food for the weekend? And I got half the congregation to go along with me. No food at all. And I'll just tell you from my point of view, I'd like to hear how you felt about it, Mary. Maybe you should start.
Well, it was difficult, but it was only difficult the first day. After that, it's sort of like my body got used to it. But I can still remember, and Heather will probably remember this too. We actually went on a picnic to the beach on either Saturday.
Would you do that? Who goes on a picnic on a fast? Breatharians. That's what it is. They turned into breatharians for a weekend. There you go.
I think it was Saturday.
Like that one, I don't even know if that video is still around, but I made a video last year about breatharians. And the one guy got so desperate, he started drinking his own urine. He said that was natural. I was like, damn.
Because
Saturday,
like Sunday,
I was making sandwiches for the kids, and I was making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to take to the beach for the kids. And, I was going to lick the peanut butter and jelly off the knife because I was so hungry. And then I made myself stop because I didn't want to break the fast. So I was that hungry.
Yeah. Well, it's a great experience, and you don't have to wait long just a few hours to realize what you're dealing with, this hunger drive. It's so powerful. I really am serious. I think you should do this as a challenge. Set aside a weekend or 3 or 4 days.
But you have to be healthy to do this. Just anybody can't do this, right?
Well, if you're on medication, I certainly wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And if you're, seriously, thank you, Mary.
Okay.
But otherwise, if there's no contraindication to it, just find out what you're dealing with as far as a hunger drive goes.
I've done it over a weekend. Yeah, I did. I remember actually sitting over there and doing art and remembering how hungry I was. It was not great.
My experience was Friday night. I thought, no big deal. This is just a matter of a few hours. And then Saturday morning, I started thinking about food. And by Saturday evening, I had no more problems. I had no more money problems. I had no more marital problems. I had no more problems with my kids. I only had one thought on my mind, and that was food. And I guarantee you within 24 to 48 hours, you're going to know how powerful this drive is. It's there to keep you alive. That's all you think about. And then I remember Sunday, you had a lot to do with the meal that we had.
Well, yes, we decided that to break our fast, we would gather together in the church, and I brought the food, and we made the food a typical African style meal.
You can go without water for a diet and make yourself sick diet, one that threatens your life with heart disease and breast cancer and colon cancer.
That's what he's talking about, keto.
All those animal foods and that oil. And then you go and you take shots.
You are starving yourself the entire time. The entire time. You are always there's always something going on. And then your body goes into this, quote unquote euphoria stage, which everybody thinks is great, but it is not.
So you spend $17,000 to lose 35 pounds, and it takes you a year and a half. And you got to go to the doctor all the time, and good grief. And
well, don't you think though? But I mean, I was thinking if people didn't eat for 2 days, I mean, anything would taste good.
Anything would taste good.
Eventually, you just want to eat whatever you could find.
What you need.
Don't they start doing the intermittent fasting now in keto? It's so good. It's so good. Eat unlimited animals, but you got to fast. You got to fast.
need to understand is after about 72 hours or more, you go into ketosis. You start burning body fat instead of the glycogen that you stored up, the sugar. You start burning body fat and you go into ketosis, and ketones suppress the hunger drive. So the pain of starvation is dramatically decreased after about 2 or 3 days. Now, we never went to that point. We quit after just a few hours.
Well, no,
so
2 days. Well, we started on Friday night.
Quit Sunday afternoon.
And we quit Sunday afternoon.
Well, this encouraged me, and I'm going to end in just a minute. This encouraged me to look at some of the work of one of my heroes, Ancel Keys.
All right. That's, I mean, gosh, 15 minutes into this video, we're finally getting to the point of it.
Yes, Ancel Keys. You want to look.
I wonder how many people made it. If you made it this far, leave a comment of some kind. Just let me know. I don't know if I'll be able to get back to it because I've been struggling with that lately, but I'll try.
Well, he's the man that really is the foundation of the Mediterranean diet. He did the 7-country study where he showed the difference in disease, particularly heart disease, worldwide based upon diet. I mean, he started all this condemning meats, dairy products, and recommending that we eat a starch-based diet. Ancel Keys did. Anyway, he was alive during the time of World War II. He was in practice. Some of you may recognize K rations. These are the.
All right, so I found something. Hopefully, it's somewhat good.
World War came to a close, a bright young scientist at the University of Minnesota wondered how best to refeed the millions of civilians in Europe who had lived for years under German occupation and had been effectively starved during the war. Ancel Keys, professor of physiology at the University of Minnesota,
what a random way to call it in German, carcass meat,
wanted to investigate the numerous
Germany?
physical and psychological effects semi-starvation produced, and find out how best to rehabilitate those who had undergone extreme deprivation during the war.
I guess that's one way to mow down the forest.
And so he designed an experiment that would do just that. Until then, except for the occasional
How does that happen?
anecdotal report, relatively little was known about the effects of human starvation, both physical and psychological. And perhaps more importantly, scientists and doctors had next to no idea about how to rehabilitate the survivors of starvation. And so the Minnesota starvation experiment became the first and last study of its kind. A study where Ancel Keys would recruit 36 healthy young male volunteers and literally starve them. Yeah, you heard that right. He starved them for 24 weeks. And then he...
Come on. I highly doubt that you could get this approved anymore.
He fed them, which somehow ended up being so much worse. My name is Hashem and I'm a University of Cambridge graduate and student doctor, and this is Dr. Tell Me Why. If you are new here, then just know that I post weekly medical videos about the latest groundbreaking medical research. I also tell you about all these fascinating medical conditions and give you top tips on how to live longer, stronger.
I love that term, groundbreaking scientific or whatever. Just means that what we were touting yet last week is no longer any good. You could have just read Genesis 1:29 and been done with it thousands of years ago. But we're going to do studies paid for by certain corporations and get certain results based on what they're selling at that current time.
And, well, of course, healthier. So if that's a sort
But anyway, watch this study
of content that you want to see more of here on YouTube, then I recommend you smash the like button right now and subscribe for more videos just like this. Today we will be taking a closer look at the Minnesota starvation experiment, clarifying what happens when caloric intake is suddenly slashed, as what takes place during a famine, or more often today when someone decides to go on a crash diet, something I definitely don't recommend, by the way. The Minnesota starvation experiment is actually a really interesting study, partly because it is a unicorn, it is one of a kind. It's the sort of study that would have only been possible up until the mid-19...
All right, you know what? The music, I guarantee, is going to get hit in copyright. So, unfortunately, we're going to have McDougall explain it if I can figure out how the mouse works.
he developed these, the K rations, which were
I tried.
Very high fat, very high protein blocks of food.
But trying usually just means failing, right? Just a kinder way of saying I failed.
That the soldiers had to eat when they were in battle. Did a couple of things. Gave them some calories, but also because it had virtually no fiber in it, they hardly had any poop.
Oh.
So they didn't leave a lot of trails behind them for the enemy to sniff. Anyway, that was one of the reasons. So it was K rations, it's called. Based on Ancel Keys. So he did the stuff on cholesterol. That's why you are recommended a low-fat, low-cholesterol, low animal food diet. Ancel Keys, Keys. And he developed K rations, probably did a bunch of other things, did a whole bunch of experiments. Well, anyway, he was alive during World War II. And at the end of the war, in 1944, he actually started this experiment. There were all kinds of people starving all over Western Europe. I mean, people were, you've seen the pictures of people, refugees and people in prisoner of war camps, and the skin and bones that these folks were. And so he wanted to study under experimental settings what starvation was all about. And so he got 36 conscientious objectors, COs, conscientious objectors. These are men who didn't want to kill. So they resisted the draft. Didn't want to go to Europe and kill people, but they were willing to serve their country. And so they volunteered for a whole bunch of community service programs. And one of the programs that 36 of them volunteered for was the Minnesota Starvation Program. Okay. And what they did is that they were at the hospital.
Can you imagine? I mean, wow. Yeah, let me volunteer for that, right? I guess maybe it's better than going to war for some.
So it was a Minnesota hospital. And they lived for a year. And Ancel Keys controlled what they ate for a year. And what they did is they starved them. First, they fed them as much as they wanted for, a couple of months. And then they put them on starvation period for about 12 weeks. And they caused them to lose 25% of their body weight. And then what they did is they refed some of these people. They refed 12 of them. But let me get down to the period of starvation. They were obsessed with food. I just told you about Mary's and my experience during a weekend, but
you see it all the time, like these people who really are desperate to want to live in, calories out, which is weird because I know he talks about the law of thermodynamics. And I suppose if you're eating the SAD diet, it will apply. But if you're eating the food that you're supposed to eat, I just don't understand why you would starve yourself.
They were like, that's.
Well, did he starve them, or did he allow them to have some food?
He cut their calorie intake in half.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, they had some food, yeah.
They were eating,
which is the basis of psycho, right? Or CECO, or calories in, calories out, and over exercise yourself on top of it.
But they were still hungry.
I mean, everybody. That's why this world is so dominated by coffee. The stuff tastes terrible, and then people actually confuse themselves into thinking that it actually tastes good. It's nothing but tannins. I mean, tannins don't taste good. This is why people soak almonds and all other nuts and seeds, because tannins are terrible. They're toxic material to protect the seed. But people claim that they like it because they are so desperate for energy. It's crazy.
Okay. But enough so that they lose about 25% of their body weight. So they were hungry all the time. And, they describe things that these men would do, like they would read cookbooks. I
mean, tannins are a toxin in people. And the reason you get energy from it is because the body tries to get it out of your system because it's not supposed to be there. And that's why you get energy. And as soon as you come down from that, you're like, well, no, and you drink more. You poison yourself voluntarily. It's crazy to me.
Books. They talk about food all the time. They would lick their plates. They were so hungry. And, they became quite depressed, and they cheated, actually. Sometimes they cheated. They were so even though they had a whole bunch of patriotic thoughts about getting this experiment done, it was so hard for them. All right. Well, that just shows you how powerful that drive is. You have any doubt, you read about the Minnesota starvation experiment, okay? Ancel Keys. And you read what these men went through. In fact, there's some YouTube videos which shows you pictures and some, verbal descriptions of what they went through. And you'll understand what the hunger drive is all about. But the last phase of this experiment is particularly important for many of us, and that has to do with the refeeding. What they did is they refed these people, 12 of them, these men, as much as they wanted. When they were done with the starvation part, you can eat as much as you want. And what they had happened to them is they went into an overfeeding phase where they gained a whole bunch of fat. And until they gained the muscle back that they'd lost, they didn't stop this overfeeding, which is one of the arguments that's used as to why diets don't work. You put yourself through this terrible deprivation, this terrible suffering, this pain that you remember, you never want to happen again. And your body's just set to recover, and it puts on an extra bunch of fat.
There you go. And that is where it leads you every single time. And I cannot figure out why, and I hope people made it this far, why they want to keep doing it to themselves over and over and over again. The moral of this story is, I'm going to have to be done here, but the moral of the story is, I'll link this video down below, that they kept gaining weight until their body realized they weren't starving anymore. And then they got back to the weight that they were before the whole thing even started, because they were skinny to begin with. Anyways, that is, well, they got back down to homeostasis, which whatever their body felt that was. Anyways, so if you have been doing this to yourself over and over and over again for 20, 10, 15, 30, 40 years, it's going to take some time to get back to a weight that you're actually comfortable with. That's the point of the story, moral of the story, point of the video, whatever you want to talk about. But there's only one macronutrient ratio that we really should be living under. And if you had been doing that your entire life, you wouldn't even be watching this channel probably. But now that you are, here you go. That's why it happens. I hope I answered some questions with this video. Anyways, likes, comments, questions, all that good stuff down below. Like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you in the next video.